Welcome everybody to the Messina Regional School District Board Meeting, November 17th, 2025. I want to welcome not only those who are here in attendance, but those who may be viewing this or listening to this meeting. I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And so, Jeremy, could you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, call to order. It is 6:01. First, are there any agenda adjustments? Have you all had a chance to review the agenda for this evening? Let me ask that first.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any adjustments that anyone would like to make to the agenda?
Yes, I would like to add, probably under new business, I would like to add public communication. I received a couple emails that I'd like to talk about with the board.
Any other adjustments?
I have the addition of a non-public tonight under reputation. And I also wanted to note under unfinished business B, the healthcare rates. We did add in an additional document that's in your folder. We added that in today. Rachel was able to get that in today. We knew healthcare rates were coming out. I thought it was going to be discussion. Rachel always announces me and was able to come up with a document to accompany that. So.
All right. Any other items either for the agenda or non-public part of the agenda? All right, moving along. The date and time of our next meeting is going to be December 3rd at 6 p.m.
Oh, December 1st.
Oh, December 1st. Yeah.
December 1st.
It is.
All right, thank you for the correction. All right, has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our last meeting? May I have a motion to, are there any adjustments that need to be made to the list?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss something in section C, the client services coordinator.
Under what number is that, Tim?
So this is under 3 reports to the board.
Okay.
Section C.
Oh, okay. With Miss Brianna McBee. Okay.
Bullet 2.
Okay.
The details that she covered are also covered throughout the rest of the meeting in the minutes. And I'm wondering if that should be included there. Because of what Ms. B covered is, if you go down to that other section of the meetings minutes, we cover the benefits, the reasons, the why, etc. And I'm thinking that just a simple phrase added there would be helpful. The person is reviewing that.
All right, do you want to suggest that phrase?
Yeah, went into detail outlining the life skills program that were covered later throughout the meeting.
Okay.
And then that ties in because there's a reason for the increase, and it's not like you have to read the whole body of work. And if you just read that, it looks like it's a big increase. It's not well thought through, and it's going to misrepresent the work that Ms. B provided the school did.
All right. Any comments or questions regarding the recommendation?
No.
All right. Any other adjustments or changes to be made to the agenda or to the minutes?
No.
All right. With the recommendation from Tim for the adjustment, can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you very much. We have one person here from the ABC, but I see that we have no one here from the public. And so if somebody walks in during the meeting, wishes to make public comments, we will pause the meeting at that point.
Mr. Chair.
Move to that. Yes.
Do we ask anybody who's participating remotely for public comments? And I think we have a delay that we have to wait.
That's right, for about 60 seconds. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Not sure if they could hear that. Do we have any comments from people who are online?
Okay. Again, if someone speaks up or comes in, we will pause and give them the floor. Moving along, I have a few remarks from the chair position. First of all, I want to once again thank Ellen for filling in during my absence. Does a great job as always.
I expect a big Christmas gift this year.
You will be
Okay.
getting a big Christmas gift.
Okay.
Everybody on the board is going to be a contributor. I want to ask the board members if you will be thinking over the, let's say, the next month. Part of that orientation package that we want to put together for new board members would be a list of acronyms and abbreviations and what they mean. I'm sure everyone has had that challenge of coming in and hearing the acronyms and not being quite sure. So I want to put that list together. So if you'll put your thinking caps on and give it about a month, and then I'll come back and remind you all and ask for that. We have one member here from the ABC, perhaps others will be in attendance, but ahead of time, before we get to their input, I would like to say to all the members that we really appreciate the work that you have done so far and the contributions you've made. It's been obvious that you have taken the task very seriously. You've asked great questions, and we appreciate your involvement. It means a lot to the board and to the leadership of the district. So thank you. To those who may be listening as well, this is budget season, as you probably know, and we want to encourage any questions or concerns that the public may have to either contact the leadership of the SAU or a board member or an ABC member so that we can address the questions or concerns that you have, get you as complete an answer as possible, and help you perhaps even understand parts of the budget that are not easily digestible. So please feel free. We strongly encourage you to reach out if you have the need. And then last but not least is for everybody in this room and everybody who's listening and anybody who may review this tape, I want to just wish everybody a safe and happy Thanksgiving. That's coming up next week. Those are the comments from the chair. Do we have a report from the superintendent?
You do. So I have a variety of things I'm discussing tonight, from inclement weather to legislation. So we are beginning our inclement weather season. So we plan on, again, using the same methods that we've used in the past. We use precision weather reports. Sometimes that means there's a phone call that goes out a lot of the time with local, with superintendents across the state. They'll have different presenters there. There's a meteorologist there, and oftentimes Eversource will come and the DPW will come from the state and just kind of report out what they're anticipating, what they're expecting this to look like. We look at the Eversource reports on outages if they're putting anything forward. And we also get feedback from the road agent, the director of facilities, and community transportation. So I will make every effort to make the call the night before. However, some storms, their pathway is undetermined, their timing is undetermined. So when I hold off till the morning, please know that is the least convenient time for me to make a call. As evidenced in my earlier call when out of breath from yelling at my children beforehand. So again, I'll do my best to make it the night before. Some storms we won't know until the next day. We're going to use the same method. We'll use the ThrillShare app, so you'll get the text message. We'll put it out on the website. It'll go to WMUR, the district's Facebook page, and you will hear my lovely voice first thing in the morning. So again, I'm sure that there is a superintendent recovery group out there for those who have made bad weather decisions, and I'm sure I'll be calling them at some point. Last year, it seemed to be really clear cut, which I loved. I'm hoping that it's clear cut again, and I'm hoping that there's no major snowstorms. They all happen on the weekend. Craig does not want that. Okay, the next one is Heilman Security Training Group. We had a parent meeting. We held a parent meeting on the 13th. There was 8 people. Thrilled. There were 8 parents there. We had a really great discussion about school safety, where our district is, you know, what the training the staff have received, the communication that's going to go forward, what the drills will look like at different levels. Mostly everyone had students at Highbridge, but great questions. Again, we have drills that are scheduled. These are not unannounced drills. So Mr. Heilman communicates with the building principals. There's a drill at Messinic on the 18th and at Boynton on the 20th. The individual schools will put out messages to parents ahead of time. Today we're drilling. The date for Highbridge is still to be determined. We're looking at early December at this point. And again, it leads into great opportunities to talk with kids about what safety looks like in school. When I first met with Joe a few years ago, I talked about what does this look like at the elementary school. I was a middle school teacher and administrator, and I was at the high school, so I know what that looks like. What does this look? How do you talk about school safety? And he goes, "Oh, Liz, they think it's a rabid animal." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, they do." And I'm like, "I don't know if I'm buying into that." But I went and saw him present to the kids, and he says, "Why would you need to keep the door shut and the doors locked?" Hands go up in black bear. It was a black bears, and a black bear got in the school, and he uses that and he builds on that. He's okay. Black bears in the school. We want to keep them out. What do we do? And he talks about that. And he really kind of builds on where the kids are. Obviously, as they get to middle school and high school, it does look different. They are aware of what's happening in 2025 in schools. So again, if parents have questions, reach out to building administration. Joe has also been open to taking parent emails and questions if they have questions. But again, we're continuing with our safety initiative as we continue throughout the school year. The next piece of information, building trades. There was an article in the newspaper, and I believe building trades is going to be dropped from Conant's program of studies. So it's up for the taking between Conval and Messinic, which district wants to try to absorb the program, or it could be let go. So I would like to take a look at what this would actually look like for Messinic to bring the program back. I've often heard it along with fires is programs that we lost, you know, so again, the reason why Conant's dropping it is I believe it has to do with their instructor. They couldn't keep an instructor. That's very challenging to hire people in the CTE programs who have experience in the real world. Private industry are now coming into public education. Salary wise, that's definitely a challenge. So we had a robust building trades program at one point. It was absorbed by Conant. We're in the process of investigating student interest and putting some numbers together to bring before residents a warrant article that would raise and appropriate funding for both the teacher and the equipment and supplies to be able to look at what that would look like for Messinic. So we're diving into that right now. Legislation. Quarterly, I've been trying to keep the board abreast of legislation. It's really hard. There are over 367 bills right now that NHSBA is watching. And it's really tough to figure out which ones have sticking power, which ones should we get concerned about, which ones we're okay with. So I'm doing my best here, okay? So we have some House Bill 121 essentially is, initially there was talk of that we had to get the state audit or our financial audit done within like the first 3 months of the year closing. Everyone panicked because there's only like 2 auditors in the state of New Hampshire. So it was like, that's not going to be done. So we have to do our audits within 1 year. The state can impose pretty severe penalties and put schools on probation. The truth is that that's a practice that we have regularly engaged in, so I generally don't have concerns about that. Another one was, again, regarding some amendments made to the laws around bullying and cyberbullying. Again, it's basically saying that school boards would have to adopt written policies, which is good because we've already done those things. But it changes the language in what people can and can't, like the language regarding bullying and cyberbullying and the interpretation of NHSBA. And mine a little bit is that the definition's a little bit more broad. It's not as well defined. It establishes disciplinary procedures for those who are guilty of bullying, and it also establishes discipline procedures for those who are found made falsifying reports. I will tell you from being an investigator, proving that someone purposefully put forward a false report is very, very hard. One of the other things, it allows parents, essentially outlines liability, that if the district is negligent, what individuals can do. So the other one was House Bill 675. It would be limiting the school district to raise and appropriate funding. It's essentially the tax cap. Again, that I think could be concerning. I know that it needs a 2/3 majority vote in order to be approved, but that could be concerning. And SB 57 is a committee to study SAU consolidation. The majority committee recommended that a plan would restructure SAUs with the aim of improving efficiency and reducing cost, projected for 29-30 as a start. It's reducing the current SAUs 107 down to 12 that represent the 10 counties and the 2 largest districts in the state, Manchester and Nashua. County level SAUs would have elected officials such as the superintendent who would handle business functions. There's a lot of questions that I have about this, like a lot. And there's a lot. Again, House Bill 292 established another committee to delve deeper into this issue. The majority and minority reports both felt a little rushed in that they were trying to get them out in a certain amount of time. The major concerns that NHSBA have, as well as that's listed in the minority report, is essentially, is this effective? Is this effective for districts, or are we just taking someone and putting them somewhere else and then still having to maintain the same things that we normally do? What functions could they actually take off of districts and handle in an effective and timely manner? You know, there was talk of having that elected official maintain an HR function. And I can only speak for me, knowing the amount of HR issues that we've just had, and thinking we're one of 17 districts. How is that gonna, what level of attention would we have from someone, you know, and who has authority to do what, right? So there's just a lot of things there. Workload being pushed back on principals, which again, that was discussed a few years ago about what that would look like, you know. So there's still very much up in the air, but it's something that I'm watching. It was big talk at the superintendent's meeting recently about the SAU consolidation. Generally speaking, superintendents are not in favor of this. I'm open-minded, but I have some pretty significant concerns about what that would look like.
If I may add to that, I mean, one concern that pops up to me, because in the healthcare industry where I come from, there was an era where people tried to own multiple systems, and whether it was hospitals, clinics, physician practices, et cetera, all under one umbrella, which created the position of hospital administrator to move higher up in the ranks, but further away from the care.
Yeah.
And when I hear this as a possible concept, I see the superintendent moving away from student facing and being more out of touch with what's happening on the ground with students. And I think especially in rural areas, small systems where even the top leadership knows students by name and families by name, I think is a tremendous asset, and I'd hate to see that lost.
Me too.
So
Yeah. That's the gist of what we have going on right now. Any questions?
Yeah, well, yeah. So for the building trades program, that seems pretty exciting. I know that it's very successful for years. What's the reach of the current Conant's reach, or what do you expect the reach to be? Will other schools contribute and have kids apply to come in through that program, to that program? Will it attract people?
So we back up to Milford's program, right?
Okay.
So if you think about our closest, we're Region 14, okay? You have Keene, and then you have Milford. So we're kind of right in the middle. So we really service Conant and we service Conval. We have had kids tuition from Wilton, and there's a practice that any student can attend any CTE center if their region does not have the programming offered. So for example, our centers, Conval and Conant, but we do send students to Alvern for animal husbandry, and we do send students to Milford for different programs that they have there that are not offered at our own center. So we could potentially, Milford offers construction 1 and construction 2. So my guess is that we wouldn't attract from Milford. We did have a lot of kids, if I remember, we did have a lot of kids that engaged in that program from Messinic when they were here. And what we do see in the CTE region is that when you host the program, you have more kids in the program because they're not leaving their home school. It's just easier, more comfortable. So we have seen that.
Conant, it sounds like they're dropping because they couldn't find an instructor or shortages in staffing. Do they have interest among students over there that we?
Yeah, they're sending 14 students right now to Keene.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mhm.
Okay.
We be absorbing anything from Conant? You indicated before that Conant absorbed us. Would we be absorbing anything from Conant, or are we still too preliminary to determine whether or not Conant would be willing to send anything over to us as part of it?
It's preliminary, but my understanding is Perkins funding would follow the program. So things that were purchased through Perkins funding, through grant funding.
Some of the equipment you're talking about, so is that?
Again, Perkins funding can be used for very specific things. It's not supposed to supplant. But if it was a drill that would be nice to have,
Right.
then potentially. I hope, again, this is not 100%, but if Conant does drop it, that would be a conversation that we would be having about what equipment, what supplies, resources do you have available that we could use. We do have a space, and again, it would be naive to think that our program would look like it looked 15 years ago, year one. We have a great room in the science center that is equipped with a lot of machinery. So we have a good starting point.
Someone had mentioned to me, I think years ago when the program moved to Conant, that there was difficulty finding people that would be interested in contracting with the district to build their homes. And someone said, well, why don't you build on-site little houses, small houses, or whatever they're called, and turn around and sell those. So that's just an idea throwing out there.
There's a variety of things. I think that sometimes we get stuck in the way that we always did it, right? And we always built a house, or we built the addition, or we helped with the science center. Like we did all these different things at one point. But it could be that.
Yeah, those build tiny homes.
It could be tiny homes. It could be doing remodeling, right? It might not be full homes right away. So I think that there's definitely different ways to access this. Mr. Pickering is very passionate about it. One of the first things he asked me when we were talking earlier in the year about the budget, he was like, I want to get shop back. I want to get our building trades back. And I'm like, well, we can't because Conant has it. so we can't offer the same CTE program. And then when this came, he was very excited.
Okay.
He was very
Well, tell
excited
him to
last
start
week.
thinking about
He is.
instructors.
He is.
I mean,
It's
that
working.
has always been a challenge, yeah.
The question I have is if in recruiting an instructor that comes in, obviously you want somebody who has a proven track record of experience and skill. Do they also have to be certified as a teacher?
They don't have to be certified, but they need to be able to get certification, willing and able to get certification. And that looks different for different career pathways. Again, this is an area that we've struggled with because, and then I would say all CTE centers struggle with this. There were openings in all CTE centers this year. Again, you can get paid more a lot in private industry rather than work in public education. Some districts, Rachel, am I correct, have gone to different pay scales?
Some districts have entirely separate pay scales for their career and technical programs to be more competitive.
To be able to draw people from.
You see that a lot in Massachusetts districts.
So it's something to consider. We had some people reach out. So we might have interest in teaching. We also had said we have a construction rich community and we'd love to see what that could look like partnering with some of our construction companies locally. Maybe it's not one instructor, maybe it's multiple instructors who are willing to participate and give time. And Melissa's freaking out because she's like, certification,
Kind of developing a co-op kind of.
more looking at a co-op model, and in that way kids can see different businesses and how different businesses operate. And it might be, carpentry, construction trades is a very big umbrella. One of the things Mr. Pickering was looking at is again, Milford has a very defined carpentry program, so is it better that we define a program or do we have a broad umbrella? The broad umbrella was kind of what Conant had, where it was a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So again, we're going to be looking into it. I think it would be great to have it back. Again, like Melissa and I were talking the other day and she said, whenever I hear people talk about it, I always hear people say we lost it,
Any thoughts of throwing out to the community, particularly among the construction community, of having that discussion before it goes on to the warrant article to see, to see what the interest would
Back in my
be and
mind.
how they can maybe help out and would they
Yeah.
be supportive
would they
of
be
it?
willing? Sure,
And
absolutely.
also, I've heard over the years, there's different criteria to become a teacher. So if somebody's
It's
interested,
always changing.
we have, so that,
There's a lot more flexibility as the years have gone by.
I've heard that you
Yeah.
have to have a certain level of higher education,
lot of
and
flexibility,
clarity on that in the messaging would be extremely important. How does somebody participate?
Yeah.
And what are the different roles?
There are recent updates specifically to certifications around CTE. So I think that would be helpful. If
Mhm.
we can definitely put those out because it's just not as restrictive as it has been.
So in the past, it might have been a specific level of higher education and now there's a range of it potentially, or, okay,
Yes.
got it. Thanks.
Very good. All right. Anything else, Dr. Pogo?
I got one other quick question on the inclement weather. Is there a specific deadline that you have to get it out by before school starts? Like it has to be out by 6 or 6:30, or at least, just more curiosity as to.
So we try to put it out as early as possible because we recognize that some families need to arrange childcare. We also need to get it out before the middle and high school students get on the bus. That's the big go time. So like 6:45 is really the latest that I could make a call. Again, the issue that happened earlier this year with Boynton water happened late. It happened late. Regarding weather, I wouldn't make it sick. I'd make a call at 6 o'clock. Whether it's good or bad, I make it 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, people will know. So, again, barring any weird water issues at Boynton, it should be before 6. So,
Yeah, Liz, and I know in the past, it seems like there's always trying to avoid early dismissal because that's a nightmare.
early dismissal is a
Yeah,
nightmare.
so you make that call early. And if sometimes you make a mistake, I mean, that's the way it is.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. And I would rather err on the side of caution than
Mhm,
have
absolutely.
an accident. We have a lot of student drivers. We live in a very interesting area, right? Where like you could have rain in one part of New Ipswich and snow in another, and snow and ice. So we just, we're cognizant of that. I sometimes go for a drive 4:30 in the morning to
Oh my
see how it
goodness.
is. Just check it out. If I can get out of my driveway and out of my road, then that's a sign.
Before
So
before the kids wake up.
Crank the radio.
yeah, I'll take them with me.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Pogos. Ms. Anderson, Business Administrator, report?
It's a pretty basic report this month. We're on target as far as, or the food service balances, there's no surprises there. They do tick up essentially the same each month, so there's no alarming trend there. There is one new account that's over budget by $5,000, and that is the elementary school repair and maintenance line. And that's completely due to the failed domestic hot water heater that you're already aware of, and the board has already approved the use of capital reserve funding in order to pay for that. So it's just an FYI, that particular expense line is now overspent than what we budgeted for.
Which line, I'm sorry, which line is that?
The elementary repair and maintenance line. So on the second page of my report, it gives you the account code and the line description.
And is that balance gonna come, reverse after the capital reserve
No, because
fund?
the capital reserve would count as revenue, which would offset the expenditure. You wouldn't credit the revenue of the expenditure line
So
in
it's gonna
accounting.
stay the way it is.
Mhm.
Yes,
Okay. just
But know
wanted to
that
check.
we will get the money.
Yeah, I understand.
but the revenue line obviously will be more than we anticipated. So
Okay,
it all balances out in the end.
all right.
Now, some of the lines as I'm looking at them, Rachel, the year-to-date percentage exceeds what you would think if it were evenly distributed. So are these expenses that are incurred primarily in the early part of the year, such as the regular programs? We're already at 57%.
Yeah, and that includes encumbrances. So encumbrance, is like say our bus transportation bill. We know it's going to cost us X amount of dollars for the entire year. We encumber that entire amount in the budget, meaning we keep it reserved for that purpose.
Okay,
It's not necessarily out the door.
okay.
So that's when you're looking, the total with the encumbrances is probably what you're referring to versus the year to date on the actuals is more on target. But yes, a lot of the expending of items is at the beginning of the year.
Okay. All right, thank you.
While we're on the note of expenditures, everything is on target and normal for this time of year. I don't have any concerns on that. Revenues, we're actually in pretty good shape year to date. We just received our second adequacy aid payment from the state, so our bank account is in good shape. Cash flow is good. I have no concerns. We will be making our payment to school care shortly, so that will have a little bit of a dent in it, but I'm not concerned with that. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Has there been any discussion at any level of the state about the difference between what the Supreme Court ruled as adequacy and what is being distributed as to when that may get resolved?
I have not heard anything being presented.
What I heard was that we got our legal paid, so we got reimbursed for the legal bills for the past 6 years, which was great. But they did not set a date that we need adequacy changed by.
That's a good question.
Never mind.
for-
Rachel's got it, or not
Go ahead.
Rachel. Melissa's
I think it's-
breathing.
No, not that they've set a date, but the communication we received was that they're hoping that it would be reflected in the next budget cycle at the state level. So
Okay.
we're a little bit out, at least 2 years.
Okay. So that would be a good question for our state legislatures. to ask.
Yes. All right.
I got those.
Okay, go for it.
So, Mr. Heath Vincent and Mr. Reynolds both submitted written reports. Again, so Mr. Reynolds has been been relatively quiet. It's how he likes it to be, relatively quiet. Because when you hear from Craig, it's normally not good news and it's very expensive. What he did share was the photos of the filtration system at Messinic and Highbridge, just to show you that the pellet boiler is already making the pellet boiler loop is already making a difference. When I came in and I saw that first cup, I thought it was a picture of like Jocelyn's coffee. And I was very confused as like to what I was looking at. And Craig was like, no, look at the difference between this picture and a week after the filtration. So
Oh, yeah.
you can see it. And then that last picture shows you the buildup on the gears, so, on the magnetic filtration. So he's also been busy again. It's like quote time. I feel like he's always gathering quotes for projects. He's been working with Melissa on the SAFE grant that we submitted last week. Again, for fencing, keying, and other safety items at Highbridge. So any questions on his report? Great. And Mr. Heath Vincent has been very busy. He's been out and about in the schools. They've had a bunch of Chromebook and Windows operating system updates. They're working to make that. They want it to stop patching out. So they're trying to work through a better system where everything is done automatically. They're still updating Chromebooks and laptops manually. We've had some naughty students figure out how to completely reset their computers to factory settings. Creates a lot of work when we get those Chromebooks and we have to completely reprogram. It completely wipes them out. Kudos for ingenuity, but not cool for the amount of work that they're creating. He's also been working on some DNS web filtering. Securely is going to remain in place. Cloudflare is going to be decommissioned from the system. They did some analysis and they basically changed and modified a little bit of what Securely was doing because people were not able to access what they needed to access. We're talking about a district AI policy. He's working on a draft proposal that'll come to the policy committee at some point by the end of November, early December, to take a look at. We're a little behind on our AI development policy or developing an AI policy. So he's working on that. And the Chromebook conversion for Highbridge staff, he's been working collaboratively, with Mr. Saunders on rolling out staff Chromebooks and what that looks like in different PLCs. So they're working on that, and it's not my realm, so don't ask too many.
To ask her a technical question,
here.
Tim.
Tim, don't do it. Don't do it.
I think the report is really effective. It's got numbers and measurables so you can see
Good.
progress. I think the communication's awesome.
Great.
Any other questions or comments about it? Any of the reports given tonight? All right, moving along to unfinished business. Ms. Anderson, do you want to go ahead with draft 2?
Sure. So what you have in your drive is our draft 2 of the fiscal year 27 proposed budget. How this draft 2 came about was after our last meeting where we presented draft 1. The administrative team all got together and we had a discussion about, what do we want to see what draft 2 looks like and how do we get there? The conversation was collaborative, in meaning we didn't necessarily dictate we want cuts, but we asked the budget managers to go back and look at their budgets to see if there was areas that we could, sharpen the pencil on, maybe find other ways to fund some certain items or whatnot. So we do have a few things that we've removed from that draft to highlight would be like the special education van. We've removed some funding for a music festival for the middle school, which I believe they're doing alternate funding for through Widow Island. And then we had to add a few things, some new things that came up: teacher retirement awards, para-retirement award. And Craig removed a few things from his budget as well, but I'm sure Dr. Pogorzelski will elaborate on that. Yeah. And then if you look at the pie chart that's in there, you want to
So I can, I can summarize a little bit on the reductions, the budget reductions. So the special ed van that was removed, $65,000. We really talked about can we make do with the current van? We have a van that is largely, again, there are some exceptions here, that's largely not used during the school day. So in talking with Brianna, would it be best case to have our own van? Yes, for the life skills program. However, when talking about what this looks like and understanding the fiscal complexity of this budget and looking down the barrel of an 8.5% increase, we said, okay, we don't need the van. The van can be potentially an item that we look at in future years. As far as, again, the Great East Music Festival and the BMS Easy Standards, those are some items that we're looking at Widow Island for next year. The robotics painter, again, Craig's, it's a nice ask. It could make things easier. Is it necessary? Absolutely necessary. No. We talked about rekeying of hybrid, but we just moved into, it was in the COPS grant that we submitted, which we did not get. We just found out about that. We did not get that. But we did put it into the safety grant that Melissa and Craig have been working on, as well as some other items. And the other idea is that, again, while we don't want to remove anything from our budget, and we could put a lot more in our budget, in this was one of the things that we said we could put off for a year, or we could use end of year funding as well. The facilities ERV rooftop unit, we put that into the seed grant, correct?
We weren't awarded the seat.
We were not awarded the seed grant. This is in capital reserve at the rate that they have been, we've been replacing one a year. So we were trying to shoot for two. But again, we can continue in this path, and that's it. So that's, again, how we kind of, the conversation that was framed around those cuts. Some additions come up. Again, some things were omitted as errors, and some things just came up as we were notified of retirements. So that's where you're going to see that little bit of wiggle room there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the pie chart in front of you, because it highlights the proposed draft 2 increases. So I think what's deceiving here is how much of what we're asking for in our proposed budget is in our salaries and benefits, which is largely contractual. So the teacher CBA last year was voted on. It was voted as approved. So that includes the raises that were improved in the CBA from last year. Healthcare came out of left field, right? This is something that no one was anticipating. Again, we anticipated a 16% increase. Rachel's going to talk about how we have the firm numbers, and it's a 25.1% increase. So if you look at the pie of the increase compared to the default from last year, you're looking at the majority of this over between the salaries and benefits. You're looking at this is the pie, and when you look at a default, one of the things that we look at when you're building it is our contractual obligations. So while the salaries and benefits line does not include administrator salaries or benefits in a default, I think that we needed to talk and make it very clear that if we are not going to honor our staff that are not on collective bargaining agreements, we will lose them. And losing staff that are not on collective bargaining agreements has a significant toll on the district. So there's a bunch of things to talk about here, because if you look at the salaries, Rachel did tease it out that what is CBA related, and then what is what is non-CBA related. The non-CBA employees include administrators, service providers, custodians, and admin assistants. So you have highest paid and lowest paid in that category. The CBA employees include the teaching staff and the paraprofessionals. So again, if you think about what we've been assessed with our healthcare at 25.1%, if we do not give market adjustments, and I'm embarrassed by what we pay some of our admin assistants and custodians, if we do not pay them and give them an increase in a market adjustment, they're going to be making less money this year because of the rate increase than they are now.
And we're going to lose them and not be able to replace them.
And we're
because
going
of
to
market value.
we're going to lose them, and because we are not at market value right now for many of these positions, we're going to struggle to get people. And I'll be very open with everybody. Who we get in administrative positions here are typically new. And that is a blessing and a curse. They come in with new ideas, new energy, but they don't necessarily have a ton of experience. So we see when you have administrative turnover, you see a lot of lost time, and you see an impact on staff morale, and you see an impact on kids. And that's when we talk about the things that you can't necessarily measure, right? So we've been making forward progress. I believe we've been making forward progress. And I think of all these initiatives that we have going on and that principals have really owned and taken right now and are running with. If we pay them less money next year, they're leaving. I think, again, any respectable person is going to say, I'm worth more than that. I'm going to leave. So that is, again, I wanted to explain this because I feel very strongly that we need to honor the people that we have, all the people that we have, whether they are CBA employees and it's a contractual raise or it's non-CBA employees. So in a default, Rachel and I and Melissa have been discussing how a default is not going to look too far off of what our proposed is. Because if you look at the discretionary spending between maintenance and open enrollment, which I'm not sure you can really call either of those discretionary, we need to put something in for open enrollment, and we do need to do some work on our facilities. We don't have a ton of wiggle room here. So the budget that we put together and we presented is as fiscally conservative as we can go without losing staff. Rachel, did I miss anything there? Melissa? Questions? Oh, Rachel's continuing with draft 2, right? No. Okay, so I'm just going to talk then for a minute more while I have everyone's undivided attention. So right now where we are at with our proposed over the default from last year is an 8.38% increase. I don't like that. I know no one's going to like that, but I think we need to start being very clear with everyone what an 8%, an 8.3% looks like. We also have not accounted for the next item on the agenda, which is the additional input that we have to have because of the healthcare. So again, Rachel has anticipated in draft 2, what you see is a 16% increase in healthcare. So we still have to account for the other 9% in healthcare. So, and I am not the math person in my family or in this office, but rough numbers look like we're going to be around 10% increase in our budget. So again, I've talked with local superintendents, both Conant and Conval do not use school care. They got hit last year with the health trust rates increase last year. So their budgets looked higher last year. But we are up. We are up. Our enrollment's up. Enrollment's up, but we are also up.
Can you comment on that? So when did enrollment like level off and increase? Is it recently? Is it?
So I think we've talked with you in the past about when our BOI reporting is. Our BOI reporting is October 1st. Correct? It's not 15th. It's October 1st. It's October 1st. So last year, specifically at Boynton, we had a significant increase in November, December. I think we had like 15 students come in November, December, just into Boynton. So this year, those students were accounted for. We also are seeing an increase in students coming back from homeschool and students coming back from private schools. So I feel really good about that. I believe rough numbers, it would look like we're up about 25 kids across the district. So I think that's something to be proud of.
So in addition to the budget pressure and, being very diligent, we're also getting improved enrollment. So that's going to add pressure also.
Which is really interesting, because if you look at our NASDAQ information about where our projections for enrollment should be, is that we should be declining. But we're not. The current kindergarten class is the largest kindergarten class that Highbridge has had at 76 kids. So that's, I mean, it is the COVID bump. There's a little bump in COVID. So this year or next year, this year's kids and next year's kids, we expect to see a little bit of a population bump there.
Mhm.
But it's not just there. We've seen kids come back to the high school, come back to the middle school. So
And what does it look like for adjacent districts or close by districts in the state? Is enrollment up, down, flat? How do we compare?
I think it's flat or declining.
And we're increasing.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we're doing something well.
Any questions? So our desire is to bring forward a final budget on December 1st. So if the board has recommendations, comments, concerns, areas to relook at, love some feedback.
So I'm
ABC. Board would
Yeah.
love your feedback.
Yeah, I'd like to talk, the pie chart was really helpful. So I
Mhm.
really appreciate that presentation style. And maintenance is actually just building maintenance, correct? Okay. Like improving the buildings and the, okay. Sometimes maintenance can be used as a general catch-all, so I just wanted to check on that. The other question I have is that we had a lot of information at a previous meeting on the life skills
Mhm.
program.
Yep.
And where, in the pie chart, where is that?
That'd be salaries and benefits.
Okay, so that's absorbed into that.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that is also not only, it's a cost reduction because we get better quality of service. We have somebody doing the work here, and then other districts can take their students and they can come into the life skills, great.
Yeah, in theory,
Okay.
again, our goal is to build a program here. Fiscally, it looks like it's going to be more beneficial for us to build a program here
Right.
rather than have to find programs that meet the needs of each kid and then transport them there.
And so that cost would be much higher overall than what we're going to be paying.
We
And
believe
we're going
so.
to also make revenue out of that. It's almost like an investment.
100%.
Better quality for our students. Teachers that are here, we can train them, whatnot.
Mhm.
And then we can take revenue in from other districts.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, and an interesting piece to that, Tim, is I should make a clarification actually, because I misspoke last meeting when I said that life skills programming is required by law. Nowhere in the law, if you were to go through and look into that, you're not going to find that. What you'll find is that in special ed law, it says that for certain kids, you need to provide services to them through the age of 22. I'm interpreting that as we're creating a life skills program for those students. So if someone was going to call me on the carpet and say, you know what, I looked in the law and it doesn't say anywhere that you need a life skills program. They're right. But we need to be able to provide services to those kids that are life skills related. So there's different ways to do that.
Looking at the proposed draft 2 budget highlights, we have the removed in draft 2's facilities in key of HGS, but then look further down, you have rekey locks at HHS.
Oh.
Is that just?
Is that an
was it
error?
the highlight error, or is that was actually in the budget error? I didn't.
That's a highlight error.
Highlight.
Those items should have been removed when I added
Okay, just
the.
wanted to make sure it wasn't being.
Yeah, I know.
counted in the other-
Nope.
Yeah, I noticed that myself earlier. I said, oh no.
Dig it out enough time. to
Is it
figure
the
it out.
same with the-
It's easier to ask the question than try to dig it out myself.
Same with the robotic field painter. That's
Yeah.
also listed in the highlights and then also listed as a takeoff.
Okay.
And in the proposed draft budget highlights, the same yellow lines that are highlighted. Which one of these, I think I heard some in the detail, but which one of the items highlights have different funding that's not from the taxation? Is there grants? One of them was a grant funded. So which one of the items are?
So again, we're hoping and to get the SAFE grant for the rekeying of Highbridge that was removed. And then the BMS Great East Music Festival and the BMS Easy Standards Replacement Equipment, those I believe are going into the Widow Island Fund.
Can I jump back to the healthcare costs? And I just wanted to
Yes.
comment that I see that Rachel says she's meeting with a representative from school care to discuss our specific situation.
Mhm.
In meeting with an insurance broker, I do appreciate that we're looking at how can we reduce these costs
Mhm.
instead of just saying, here they are, we're going to suck it up. So thank you.
Thank you. You're jumping ahead, but thank you.
Oh, I thought you had already, okay, all right. I read ahead.
Stole her thunder.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
She'll talk to you later.
She will.
So again, if there's no specific recommendations, we're really looking at trying to bring forward a final budget in early December. That gives us more time to work on a default and start preparing for the budget presentation in early January. So
That's good. That's key. It's going to be a challenging year. Aren't they all?
Some more than others, so.
All right. Rachel, do you have anything else you want to report?
Go ahead.
On where in the agenda the health insurance discussion is in.
there we go.
Is it up next? I don't know.
It's you. It's you.
It's you.
Yeah, healthcare.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So last Wednesday, we received our rates from school care. The average blended rate or the blended average of rate is increase is 25.1%, with the actual percentage increases varying depending on which plan. We do offer 3 core plans within our district. Our Cadillac plan, so to speak, is going up 22.9%. Our kind of mid-range plan is going up 26.4%. And our lower plan is going up 33%. But also non-CBA employees are being moved to the 2.0 plan, so to speak. That's something that school care members voted on last year to phase out the original yellow and orange plans. So all that means is the 2.0 means it's a slightly higher deductible on those plans. So our non-CBA employees who were not obligated or locked into a contract are being moved to that plan because school care is no longer offering the other plans for them. So currently in draft 2, I only have the estimated 16% increase budgeted for. So draft 3, there'll be the full analysis with the actual rates, which is something I started working on today. And I'm also going to be meeting with school care to kind of discuss why did our rates go up as much as they did. They sent me a report late this afternoon that I had a brief review of. I'm not going to pretend to understand it all, but a lot of it has to do with huge increase in specialty pharmacy. And that includes GLP-1s for people who are diabetic. Our plans do not cover GLP-1s for weight loss specifically, but it does cover for diabetics. And also catastrophic losses. So meaning any individual plan member who has claims above $100,000 is considered a catastrophic loss. Our catastrophic loss rate is 3 times the normal average. So we have some heavy hitters, so to speak, on our plans that are quite expensive for their health care.
And this was an aberration compared to previous years?
Apparently, it's much higher than what they anticipated when they set the rates last year. Yeah. So those are some, issues that we're having. I'm gonna go more in depth on. A lot of it was, it can't be helped. You can't tell someone they can't, you can't have this surgery or you can't be on this drug. So,
Right.
but it is helpful to understand
Why?
the why. And if there's any things we can do to encourage, preventive care for our employees, be better about communicating with them about what our health plans offer for preventive care options and wellness benefits and such. So, but I'm also going to be talking to an insurance broker because I personally cannot not talk to someone about this just to get a second opinion to see if it's the most fiscally responsible way of providing health care for our employees. I'm not terribly hopeful, doing some research and reading, even private health plans are skyrocketing. So, but it is worth the time and investment of, effort to take a look at. Good news is our dental rates aren't going up quite as much as we anticipated. They're going up 8% versus the 10% I budgeted for. So you'll see adjustments for those in the draft free budget. Oh, excuse me, final budget. And I'll take any questions. I know it's kind of a little bit of a shocker. I opened that email. I was on vacation last week and I opened that email and I said, I gasped out loud. Everybody thought I, had been a ghost or something.
I didn't sleep that night.
Oh, no. Okay.
Is the question that I have is the 25%. I understand that it's due to utilization and high-end utilization of medical services. Is that particular to our district, or is there a pool of districts where they're having all the same experience?
So every district within or town within the school care membership got a different rate increase. And your rate increase was dependent upon your performance, meaning your claims, what paid out and what you paid in for a premium.
Mm-hmm.
Some districts had, 30%, 35%.
Well,
So I mean, we weren't the worst, but also some districts had some, as low as 8%.
Hmm.
It was a wide range, and we have such a small pool. I almost wonder if that impacts it somewhat. If you have a smaller pool and you have a couple heavy hitters, it really skews the numbers.
And Rachel, after the healthcare assessment that, all districts, that are, or all municipalities actually were given, to me that this was, after we got that, I went, oh, our rates are going to go up. Because again, their reserves were depleted because they weren't accurately, the rates weren't accurate for what districts were using. So they went into their, so again, once that health assessment came out, I was like, oh, great. Now we're going to see a huge increase to account for what people are using and what their history is showing now at this point.
And part of those rates, a small part, I think it's like 1% or a little less than 1%, is going towards helping refill that reserve. So it's not all just to clear the claims necessarily. It's to put it into that reserve so it can build up to a healthy level again.
as I look at the plans and the cost, for single, two-person family, et cetera, is there one or two plans in particular that a majority of our staff choose?
I would say we only have a handful of people on the orange plan. But the yellow plan is probably the most popular plan. It's the most affordable for the employee themselves. But yellow with choice is also popular because it is a low deductible. It helps the employee budget better, to not have to, budget ahead of time where they can take a little more out of their check each week, because that plan is more expensive for both us and the employee. But yellow is I would say the main plan for both teachers and non-CBA employees.
On a granular level, do you know how much of this is being driven by the local just service provider costs of where our employees have to go to get their services done? Like, is it just because we don't have a lot of options around here and the costs locally are so much higher than in other areas where they have?
That's something school care did discuss. Provider costs are increasing. We're seeing rate increases, especially with specialty positions and surgical options. I don't know how that specifically impacts us as a district and our rates. I think generally speaking, I think we're seeing that both in New Hampshire and nationwide, but New Hampshire specifically being very hard hit with that because there's fewer and fewer options out there, fewer competition for with providers and hospitals as they're being, bought out by private companies. They're seeing rates increasing.
Can you give us some information on the deductibles? Like, according to some of these plans, like high deductibles is a subjective thing, is it?
Yep. Don't grade me on this, but
Ranges are fine. Like,
so the orange plan, I believe, has a $4,000 deductible.
okay.
Yellow, I believe it's $2,000. And same thing, yellow, but the choice fund gives the employee $1,000 towards their deductible.
Okay.
upfront. So it's a net of $1,000 deductible. In the 2.0 plans, I believe it's going to a $2,500 deductible and a $4,500 deductible.
Wow. Okay, thanks.
I have one last question. So I know that you're working on the numbers, but do you have a ballpark figure, an estimate or a guesstimate of the difference between the 16% that you put in the budget and the 25 that you're going to have to move towards?
About 250,000, give or take. Which is going to bring us from about 8.3 up to about 10%.
Okay, thank you. Well, on that cheery note, Rachel, is that the end of your report?
That is it for now. Yes.
All right, let's move on to, if there's no objection, let's move on to new business. Dr. Pogo, do you have something you'd like to say?
Well, it's not completely new business because it's really talking about what we just all talked about, and how we as a district, the community outreach committee, how we can start planning for, our deliberative session, our budget presentation, and kind of looking at what we should be doing once we have a final budget, and communicating that, like what that looks like, as school board members, as a outreach committee, and kind of just talking a little bit about like planning for that. Again, I think that we need to be very vocal, and more vocal than I think I'm comfortable with being, about what this means. Like, what does this proposed budget get us versus what will a default look like versus what will a catastrophic cut of $2 or $3 million look like? We're in the process of taking a look at what each of these scenarios, will look like, but we want to pay very close attention to what our proposed is doing and what our default will do, because we're talking, even if we have the default, and I'm going with raw numbers here, but if we're talking about, paying for our non-CBA staff to have a raise and to have in insurance, we're talking there about $450,000 that we will have to come up with in a default, and there are not many areas to choose from there. So we have to be very, very careful about how we present this to our community, and no one, myself included, is happy about the tax bill that I got, right? Everyone's getting their tax bills right now. And I mean, I was a social studies teacher and I had a jar that said taxes on my desk. Like, no one likes paying taxes. I don't, but I do recognize what it's going towards. And I do believe, and again, I know other people don't, but I do believe it's going for the good here. So I think we need to be very clear about what people are voting for. Again, in future years, I'm hoping that it's not a 25% increase in healthcare. Like, I don't want people to think that this is the norm, but we've banged our heads against the wall trying to put together a draft that's as low, but also serves our students.
Right. And so I brought up the enrollment increasing because I think it's a positive. I think we have to catch ourselves doing well and communicate it. For example, like the options that are available for high school students, and the flexibility is really cool. And it's not the traditional school that many of us went to where, what does that mean to go to an extended learning opportunity? So I think we also have to provide equal measure of the services and the benefits of coming here, in addition to the financial pressures, because we're all feeling it as taxpayers. But as long as we know that it's thoughtful, it's a safe environment for students to learn, we're attracting and retaining high performing teachers, our enrollment's going up. As long as we can couch the positives there, I think that's going to be information that people can make real decisions with, as opposed to just look at the financial pressure, because that's just a reality of life. But let's catch ourselves doing well.
I think that's very valuable. Highlight the positives, not only the positives that have gone on, but the positives we anticipate going down the road. I think, I think part of my axiom has always been plan for the worst and hope for the best. And I'm thinking ahead in terms of the public hearing and the deliberative session. And under any circumstance, being able to digest a budget the size of the one that the school district has and the nuances and the considerations and the contingencies and so forth, that's a lot for people to absorb. And I think a majority of the people won't absorb it. And so I think part of the challenge that we have in how do we message going forward and how do we share the information and educate people as best as we can so that they can make as informed a decision as possible is to be able to think through different scenarios that we may get presented. For instance, I'm thinking back to a couple of years ago at the deliberative session where there were recommendations in the deliberative for certain, what I consider draconian cuts. And the cuts were not accompanied by what the consequences would be by the people who were suggesting the cuts. But it was also, the timing of it was such that it was difficult for those in leadership positions to be able to respond immediately as to, okay, if this is a warrant article that you want to propose as an alternative, we can educate you right here and now as to what those consequences will be and what the contingencies will have to be so that people are making informed decisions. And so I think part of our task, and I've talked with Liz about it, I know that Liz has talked with her leadership team about it, is that those are the things that we have to kind of get our ducks in a row for between now and the deliberative session.
Rachel asked a great question earlier today when we were meeting, kind of just talking about this. And she said, well, are students going to be impacted? And the immediate question is yes. Like the answer is yes. To what extent differs and in what ways differs. But again, we've gone 2 years on a default. And in talking with other superintendents, because this is a little disheartening, right? Bringing forward a 10% increase is not what anybody wants to get up and get behind. It's really hard, and it can be defeating. When talking with other superintendents, they're going, that's not bad considering you've had two defaults in a row, with inflation, with the cost, with cost of everything going up, that's not, it could be worse. And I was like, when you really think about it, I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, okay. It's just hard to swallow. So how do we leverage, what do we leverage? How do we leverage it? And how do we get the message out there that we're doing what is best for kids? And so again, we're continuing to put this information in the newsletter. I have a meeting with, I have an opportunity to do I'm doing a presentation for staff. A lot of our staff live in district, so that our staff understand the budget more. They can be proponents of our budget with their neighbors, with their family members. So, making sure that staff understand our budget, I think, is important. Our budget presentation, again, I've shared, is going to look different this year. We've kind of brainstormed as a group, and we're going to continue brainstorming as a group, because as Mitch said, I think that looking at last year's 57 slide presentation, it's too much, and we lose people. It's getting people to the polls and making sure that people understand that their vote is important. The budget last year, failed by 60 votes. That's important. Getting there is important. So we just have to, in my opinion, we have to get that message out. And I'd love for the community outreach committee to start developing some ideas for what that could look like from a board perspective.
And the 10%, going back to the 10%, I anticipate that under normal circumstances, when a person hears 10%, that's when the hearing will shut down. They won't really hear what follows. They'll perseverate on the 10% and what the meaning has for them. We know that from a public hearing that we had this last year, that there were people who spoke in earnest, respectfully, about what the increase would mean to them in terms of their property tax and how much they could afford. And I believe that they were being honest about that. And so I think I agree, to have a billion slides, I think loses people. I think what we have to do is, what do we want people to take away? What do we want them to understand along with the 10%? And what the consequences are if that is not supported, or whatever the percent turns out to be, if it's not supported. And the old adage, I know when I was teaching, the axiom was students had to hear something about 7 times before they learned it. And so we have to make it, I think, relevant, something that we can leverage, but that we can repeat over and over again so that people hear it and take it in.
And reaching people, right? We had a presentation on school safety for kids, like school safety, and 8 parents came. How do we leverage this to get more people? Do we record it? Do we send it out? How do we do this so that we can get more people to hear the message that we have? And we've struggled getting people out. In my opinion, like I've struggled to get people out to different events. I should have done a bit at sports awards. Should have gone to sports awards and snuck in between volleyball and soccer.
So when is the community forming, or do we have the committee?
It's a board committee.
It's a board committee.
It's a board
Okay,
committee.
so we're going to be forming
Yep.
that.
So
Okay.
again, I just wanted to preface this. We don't need any hard and fast information yet, but if we want to, again, for as far as agenda building, include it in the next.
I think we should, yeah.
Yeah.
And bring ideas, because Catch Us Doing Well, I think like what all the revenue sources are might be helpful, because the actual operating expense of the school is not only just raised from taxation, but we got, from what I can recall, we have a very small percentage of federal grants. We have some other grants, etc. When we are an attractive school, whether it's a CTE program or other advantages that out of district placements come in, we should talk about that revenue flow. What kind of revenue that brings, and maybe give a more balanced perspective of it.
Let me interject at this point. We have Carolyn here from the ABC. And Carolyn, I know that this is, what we're talking about has been a subject within your own committee, where you've talked about the budget and concerns and questions that you all have. Would you mind if I asked you to come up and introduce yourself on the mic, and just at 35,000 feet, just kind of give an overview of what the ABC has been focusing on?
Overview of my life, or no? Okay.
So introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Carolyn Cormier, New Ipswich. So I think our primary charge is to give feedback on the budget, both from a taxpayer parent perspective. We have a good cross section of taxpayers on our committee. Feedback to the board, question and answers, and then our biggest thing that we've been discussing primarily lately is how can we equip ourselves with the knowledge that we need so that we can be advocates for the budget in the community. So in this last round, we had a list of questions back to Liz, primarily. So it was kind of like, we're cutting these things. Okay, so if someone asks us why, how can we justify it? And some of the things are really important to some of the members on the board. And, we all got attached to our little budget buddies groups. And so it's kind of looking into, okay, if we're cutting this, why? And are we sure, And I feel like that was one of the things that came up. It's like, well, we don't want to cut anything. But if we can justify why, and even let taxpayers know that this final budget is a third iteration of
losing things that we'd love to have. You know what I mean? It's not like we're throwing out our Cadillac plan, we're putting out what we think is fiscally responsible and losing some things that we would love to have and would really enhance our instruction along the way. So I think that's part of your pitch is people aren't involved up until that voting day or that deliberative session. And so as much as we try, they don't maybe necessarily know the whole process. And so coming forward maybe with some of the things that we had included, but then ultimately decided to eliminate might just show good faith effort. Like this is the tangible things that we lost because we feel we can get along without it, even though we would have really liked it. I also really resonate. We talked a lot about talking about our district in a positive light and talking about the growth that we've had in particular over the next couple of years, even with life skills, the life skills program coming back potentially. That is a huge asset to our district. And we talked about what kind of district do we want to be? Like we want to be an inclusive district. Think of the value to those specific families that have had their kids, either out of district and are able to come back or are able to stay in district as a result of potentially of that program. Same with building trades. What kind of community are we? Those things to me are responding to community outcry, basically. Building trades in particular. If you ask anybody, they're like, bring it back, So to me, it's more about like what kind of district do we want to be and how far have we come and keeping it. I love that, Tim, just about like focusing on the positive. And the other thing is I feel like just as a recommendation, I was thinking of sitting there. I agree we need to show the repercussions of the decisions that we make, but we also have to be careful that right off the bat, I think a lot of times people see something as a scare tactic potentially. So say like, oh, they're just trying to scare us, when right away you see if we have a default budget, we'll lose sports. People are always like, oh, don't try to, you know what I mean? So thinking about maybe ways that we could have like a flow chart that shows
potential.
Yeah, kind of both positives and negatives. Like this is what we can do with our proposed budget. This is what we can do with a 10% reduction. This is what we can do with a default. This is what we can do with, at these different stages. And so that at the end, you're like, well,
We don't want it to
It's
come
not
across
much.
as a manipulation.
I think
No,
so.
and in the
I think
past,
we need to be- yeah.
years ago, it has come across as that. I also, standing in this position now, I do understand the complexity of we are already
Right.
planning and looking at catastrophe plans.
Mhm.
Like what happens if someone comes in and cuts the budget by $5 million? How
Mhm.
much is it going to cost us to tuition our students out? Now, again, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but we unfortunately have to
Yeah.
to be equipped to be able to say, okay, this is what it is. We do, I think, regardless of how it's presented, run the risk of it looking like we're trying to create urgency
Mhm.
or that we're threatening, and as an aside, sports aren't on the table because of a variety of other factors locally that are occurring.
Mhm.
Sports are not going to be something that's factored in here. It
Mhm.
won't be sports.
Mhm.
It'll be other programs.
Mhm.
So, again, I don't know if that hits differently because I know it's always been sports, right? It's always gone back to, which is a very at the heart of our, I think, community. So I think the community's always taken it really poorly when we've talked about that.
And I think there's a little bit of like, oh, they're, a crying wolf kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, so we just need to be careful, but we do need to show the truth,
Yeah.
what would happen if we had a catastrophic cut. So putting it in a positive light of what we can do with this amount of money versus what we can do with what we're proposing. I think, most people want what's best for their kids.
Mhm.
So, and then my last thought when we were sitting there is just that when you said, should we record it? I thought, what if we had just like a 3-minute video that you could share that was like, just like one of those infographic things where it was just words and slides over about a quick thing on the process of generating the budget and then the key highlights, that pie, that pie chart, just something that's literally like 3 minutes
And that-
long that people could share.
You might
Shorter.
attach
Yeah.
something to that. So I know that I got somewhere in this communication from the school, there's a podcast group, a media group. I don't know if the
Mhm.
students would contribute to that.
Yeah. So I did a
That would be a
podcast.
real
I did a
positive.
19-minute one.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably
But
want
if
to cut that down,
But
but
if the students could contribute to it, that would be another manifestation of what our tax
Mhm.
dollars are doing.
Thank you, Carolyn. All right.
Great.
Anything else? Any other comments or questions regarding the new business that Dr. Pogo brought up? Do we have any policies?
Don't forget Ellen.
Yeah, I know. Oh, thank you. Yes, Ellen, you had new business.
I did. I just wanted to talk about an email I got from, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, Shane Siwa, who is our New Hampshire Legislative House legislator. And I'm not sure if anyone else got this email, but it was an email initially introducing me to Ian Hewitt. And then the following day, I got an email from Ian Hewitt, who appears to be connected with New Hampshire Cornerstone. And his email was an invitation to attend a webinar for school board members on November 8th that was titled Managing Your District's Legal Counsel. And the gist of what I understand he was saying and was presenting is having your districts, or how to have your districts look at getting a second legal opinion on matters. So I'm wondering, did anyone else receive that email? Did anyone attend that webinar?
I didn't get the email.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And Representative Surway contacted me. So he sent it to me. I didn't know who else he would send it to.
Okay.
I was too busy. Work is crazy at this time of the year, so I did not attend. But I really appreciate the reach out. You know, somebody cared enough to offer this to us. I'm interested in it, but I did not attend.
No.
Jeremy,
I did
you
not
get-
receive
You
anything.
did not receive it. And you did not.
I did not receive anything, no. Do you all think that this is something that we should invite legislator Siwa to come and address the whole board if he felt it was important enough to send out to a couple of the board members?
I'm feeling yes, that I would like to know or have a discussion with him as to what is
Sure.
his
Yeah.
motivation. And how did I pronounce it Siwa because that's my mother's maiden name and that's how
I think
she
it's
pronounced it.
Surway.
Surway.
And if you're
Surway.
listening, we'd love to hear.
Okay,
Yeah, what the correct.
I'd like to have a little bit more information about
okay.
everything that I mean, not everything, but just a brief overview of what it is he's actually looking to discuss.
Yeah.
I'm always open to new ideas and to new thoughts, but, flying blind here, I can't say whether or not,
Right.
what he
Does-
might have would be.
Does Mr. Sirwa have a relationship with the two of you?
He does not with me.
I'm just curious as to
just-
why the board didn't get it, just a couple of members.
So we have past experience. When I was on the planning board, I think we spoke. I was part of a community action committee. I needed him because needed to use him to communicate into Concord. So I do have occasional conversation with Shane,
Okay.
but I wouldn't say a pre-existing relationship.
Tim, would you feel comfortable contacting him and see if he would be willing to come and speak to the whole board
Yeah, I'd be
about
happy to do
his,
so, yeah. Yeah.
what he is interested in talking to us about?
Mhm.
Okay.
May I clarify something? Are we looking to have both our representative and the lawyer come, or just
I'm thinking just Shane.
Yeah,
Just one,
Shane,
okay,
Yeah.
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Just let me know because we'll build the agenda.
Yeah, I don't know what his availability is. but-
Absolutely.
Yep, I will take a note of it.
All right, thank you. All right, no policies. Agenda building. Does anybody have any items that they would like to see on the next agenda?
Yes, future agenda building item, just to introduce it. There is going to be some policy agenda items in the future. Because the policy committee met and we can cover that a little deeper, but I don't want to go out of order. So
Okay,
I will refer to a future policy adjustment, in
all
some
right,
of our notes.
all right.
I do have some stuff to report out. I've been working with our outreach coordinator on Lunchdate. Rachel and I and Sarah have kind of been coordinating. We have some creative ideas that we're going to bring forward.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
All right, I think we can handle some creativity. All right. No personal reports?
We have one. Yeah, we had one person on there.
Did we just, policies was before agenda. I got all mixed up. Can I go back to policies?
Sure,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Okay, so the policy committee met today. We had 4 general ideas here. One is as a conclusion of the homework conversations that we had, we're going to take that input plus NHSBA input, put a homework policy together for the next policy meeting on December 1st for review. We had a proposal submitted to us for a JFAB, and JFAB is the out of district placement. And there's a proposed addition that we discussed, and that's for when an employee has a child and they want to have their child come in as an out of district student.
Okay.
There was other policies related mostly to the Ed 306 deep dives, and that's going to be shifting the language to competencies. And there's been this really great groundswell of effort towards that aim. And then the agenda building will be the JFAB further down the line. We'll bring that forward as an agenda item.
Okay, good. Sounds like you've been doing a lot of good work.
Yeah.
All right. Personnel report, Dr. Poto.
What you have in front of you, this was, it's an adjustment because the length of the club was not accurately accounted for. So this is the total stipend that we're asking for.
Was it an adjustment up or down?
Up. We missed a week.
And so what are you asking for?
Just
specifically?
approval of the updated wage
Which is
stipend.
1260?
Yep.
Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the increase to 1260 for the stipend?
I'll make the motion to accept the 1260 for the stipend.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Nope. Okay. Good enough. We have no one here for final public comments. Do we have anybody online that would like to make some comments? And we'll wait approximately 60 seconds because of the connection time. All right, I think we will move forward. So we're going to go into non-public. And so can I have a motion to enter into non-public?
I'll make the motion to enter into non-public.
A second?
We need to-
Yeah, but do we have it under
Under
RSA?
Well, this
RSA
is for
91A3
reputation.
Reputation.
Reputation. Matter. Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Go with a
Roll-
single
roll
vote?
call.
Yes.
Roll
Roll
call.
call.
Yes.
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 And we will stop, take a 5-minute break. It is now 7:32. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes for the non-public.
No, you're good. You don't have to.